Hello, I'm Liam Mullone. I've been asked by London is Funny to show you a place that's special to me, that means had a big effect on my life, and originally I wanted to show you somewhere where I've been truly happy, where I felt, you know, one with myself and the world, but sadly that place has been closed by the Mexican health authorities. So instead, I brought you here, to Putney Vale Cemetery, where I used to work. At 47 acres, this is the last resting place of a lot of great people. Bobby Moore, John Pertwee, Arthur Askey, James Hunt, Hattie Jakes, one of the fat ladies. Over there is the grave of Howard Carter, who in 1922 cracked open the tomb of Tutankhamun. I reckon that in like 2022, on the centenary, we should all go over there dressed as pharaohs and dig that fucker up, see how he likes it. Because it's quite rock and roll to work in a graveyard. Dave Vanian of The Damned did it, Will Self, of course. Rod Stewart apparently dug graves to get over his fear of death. He then went on to have unprotected sex with more than 2,000 women, which if anything goes to prove how effective his graveyard therapy was. I, on the other hand, I've had sex with far fewer people, and as far as death is concerned, I'm still fucking terrified, but it doesn't always work. This is the Garden of Remembrance, a place of quiet reflection and solitude just 5 yards from the A3 trunk road to Portsmouth. In the long hot summer of 1992, I worked here in the Garden of Remembrance. In the Garden of Remembrance, I have many remembrances of this garden, remembrances that I would prefer not to recall. These are the stack tombs, which was a sort of multi-storey burial solution that they came up with in the 1950s when the graveyard started to get a bit crowded. It was around here that I first was given my nickname Tapestry. I was told to dump some manure on the rose beds over there, and the head gravedigger Nosha, he said, you've got to pick up this manure, right? There's 6 tons of it, put it in the wheelbarrow, take it over there. Basically, you're shoveling shit from here to there, right? That is your job, like it or lump it. And being of a sunny disposition and having a 2-2 in film and media studies, I said, fine, all part of life's rich tapestry. To which he said, no, there's no fucking tapestry. What the fuck are you talking? There's no tapestry. It's shit. I'm not sure you understand what the job is. You're taking shit and taking it over. There's no tapestry. You're just moving shit. On the first day in the crew room, one of the gravediggers told me to make myself a cup of tea, which I did, and I wondered why they were all sort of watching me so intently. I thought maybe they weren't sure how to make tea and they'd been waiting for someone clever with a 2-2 in film and media studies to turn up and show them how to do it properly. But no, it turns out that I had elected to play Gravedigger's tea roulette. See, one of the teacups belonged to Nosha, the head gravedigger, right? And you couldn't use his cup or you were in trouble, right? And of course that's the one I chose because it was a Mr. Happy teacup. I was subconsciously drawn to Mr. Happy, reminding me probably of, you know, childhood times where I was happier and people looked out for me and I didn't have to work with psychopaths in a boundless, crumbling metropolis of Victorian death. And also, the Mr. Happy teacup was the only one that wasn't full of fag ends and phlegm, which I think is how most of the gravediggers liked their tea. Nosha's punishments included having to clean concretions of gravedigger snot off the toilet walls and taking part in an exhumation, for which the other gravediggers provided a useful narrative, going, here, look at that tapestry, look at the eye. It's always the eyes what go first. It's like pork pie jelly, innit? I bet you never saw nothing like that at university. I was like, no, I didn't. There was no. There's nothing about the stages of human decomposition in any of my film and media modules. I was sent to the bottom of unsupported graves to dig out the last 3 feet. They were double-decker graves, 9 feet deep, and the JCB could only reach 6. And while I was down there, sometimes people would take the ladder away and go, you don't mind if I borrow this, do you, Taps, just for a minute? And I thought to myself, wow, they've shortened my nickname. They've actually shortened my nickname. They're definitely starting to like me. But the worst punishment, worse even than the thought of early entombment, was being sent to work with Keith the gardener. Ah, Keith. The priests would scatter ashes in the Garden of Remembrance. It was our job to watch from a respectable distance and then gradually move in and hoe the hot, pungent ashes into the ground, because otherwise they'd be laid in a sort of cross shape, and after a while they would accumulate and the whole place would start to look like a sort of litter tray visited by a giant cat with a cruciform bumhole. Usually while we were standing there, Keith would point to the prettiest of the weeping mourners and lean over to me and say, "Eh, I've had her." Horrible. Grief, Keith would say, is a wonderful thing. It makes people frail, suggestible. It makes them want to fill that awful void with anything that isn't grief, even if it's Keith's horrible penis. Personally, I don't think anyone has ever been that unhappy. But the worst thing about Keith was he'd give you tools that he'd made himself out of stuff lying around. Like he'd give you a twig with a nail through it and say that's for pruning the rose bushes, and you'd have no idea how to prune rose bushes with this invention, so you wouldn't use it, and he'd go apoplectic. He'd say, "Use my pruner, you fucking student," with his syphilitic lip about to burst, right? Or he'd give you a bit of hose pipe with a bit of twine wrapped around it and said, "That's for fixing the fountain, obviously." And then he'd spend the rest of the day telling you about his pornography collection. Eventually I had a sort of childish freak out and filled Keith's locker full of fox shit. He went and told Nosher on me, and Nosher at that point decided I wasn't quite such a twat as he'd originally thought, and he released me from Keith's pathogenic bosom. He said, you just garden wherever you will. He said, the graveyard is yours. Actually, he said, "Nonce face, don't want to work with you no more, so take a strimmer and make yourself scarce, yeah?" Sometimes while out strimming, I would rest here, my young knees bleeding from the shrapnel where I'd gone over a snail, and I would rest my weary strimmer against the Sainsbury vault. The people who invented supermarkets are interred here. It's got holes in the side because foxes love nothing more than a vault. Apart from fucking outside your bedroom window when you've got an exam in the morning, and Yahtzee. There's no meat on the bones around here anymore, but foxes use our bones to sharpen their teeth. So that'd be like, I'm just going down Sainsbury's. Do you want anything? Yeah. Go get me a femur, will you? Oh, another femur. No, I'll get you a coccyx. Try something new today. Yeah, when you work all on your own in a massive graveyard, you've got to amuse yourself, really.